Hey, and welcome to the show. First of all, I should do the whole thing like this with one hand over my eye. I woke up yesterday and I had a burst blood vessel in my eye. It doesn't hurt. I don't even know it's there. My wife looked up and she went, ah! So it looks bad, but it's not that bad for me anyway. I know it's not that great to look at. Can you see that? It scared my kids. So welcome to the live Sunday show. Glad that you're with me here. There will not be one next weekend. Just want to let you know my son's provincial championship flag football is taking place in Kelowna. So I'm pretty excited because it's the first road trip with the new family sled. We have our new Cayenne and we'll be driving from Vancouver to Kelowna. For those that have never been here to BC, that's about a 4.5 hour drive, depends how fast you're going. And the good news is British Columbia has the fastest speed limit here in the country at 120 kilometers an hour for a good part of that. So, you can usually go a little bit over and not get into too much trouble. So I'll report back on how that goes. Now the other thing is, do the live show here. A lot of similar questions. Actually, somebody emailed me last week and mentioned this and said, you know what, Zach, you get a lot of the same repeat questions, and I've missed some of your live shows because people ask the same things like, should I get a GTI? Should I get a Golf R? Which is the best compact utility? And if you want to ask those questions, please feel free to get into the chat box and ask them. I always ask that you give me a little bit of background. What are you using the car for? How much do you want to spend? Do you have kids? Anything like that. Like, what's the best utility? Well, how much do you want to spend? What size utility? What are you going to use it for? So all of that kind of stuff. But I'm proposing a theme this week. Now, this is going to be tough. Okay, so here's the theme. You have an imaginary $100,000, or maybe you have $100,000. You have $100,000 to spend, and you have to buy 3 cars. One can be used, one has to be domestic, and one has to be a utility vehicle. Okay? One can be used, one has to be domestic, and one has to be a utility vehicle. So here are my 3 choices. Okay, I'll go first. So my choice is 3 vehicles for $100,000, and we're only choosing MSRP. We're not including taxes, anything like that. And these are Canadian MSRP. So for the family vehicle, I chose at $50,000 a Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. Okay, I love the Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's the perfect size. It's right around the same size as our current family vehicle, which is the Cayenne. That's 50 grand, okay? Next, at $36,000, a little bit of fun and can double as family duty, and my wife could also drive it, would be the Volkswagen GTI Autobahn. Not the Golf R, the GTI, but the higher trim one at $36,000. So that leaves $14,000 to have some fun with. So I've got my domestic, that's the Jeep Grand Cherokee, that's also doubles as my utility vehicle. I've got a GTI Autobahn, and I have $14,000 left to go and buy and search for a used Mazda MX-5 or a Miata. And I think for 14 grand I could probably find a pretty nice one. So those are my 3 choices. What are your 3 choices? $100,000, one has to be domestic, one has to be, and it can be the utility as well, and there you go. So I was thinking maybe I would do a Mustang GT with Performance Pack would be my $50,000 car, and then another vehicle would be like, I don't know, like a Mazda CX 5, and then, a little fun car. But anyway, you tell me what you think. Get in the chat box and let me know. All right. All right, lots of stuff coming in. I apologize once again if you're just tuning in now, if you just got the notification. Yesterday I woke up with a burst blood vessel in my eye. So it doesn't hurt, I don't feel it, it just looks bad. So I apologize to you. Hey, the first one comes in from Dream Cruiser. Hello, Zach, my favorite part of Sunday, awesome. Ring Ding says, hey Zach, I have tried the Prius Prime and I like it. However, the car is long from my garage. Do you have an idea if Toyota will come out with a smaller plug-in hybrid or small battery EV? Just buy a bigger garage. I don't know. There are no plans yet, but here's the thing. That sounds like a pretty small garage if you can't get a Prius Prime in there, because the Prius isn't that big. But yes, Toyota has a plan to hybridize and then obviously have plug-in versions of all of their lines. So if it's any of their vehicles, they plan on having a hybrid version at least, and hopefully a plug-in version. But these things aren't going to come quickly. So for the Prius, what about a Prius C? Just the good old hybrid, and it's going to be very good on fuel. Something to think about. So you'd have to just basically get out there and measure your garage. One vehicle that isn't that big that's in this is a plug-in is a Nissan Leaf. It's not that big a vehicle, so check that out. Hey Zach, from sunny Montreal, where gas prices are so high. I don't think they're as high as here. They're about $1.60 a liter here on the West Coast. Vincent says, hey, have you heard the numbers on the Model 3 all-wheel drive? What do you think about it? So I'm probably asking about the pricing of it. Now, I have been on record, I've said this many times. The $35,000 US Tesla Model 3 will be like a unicorn. They're going to make a few of them just to say they did it. Most cars are going to transact in that $50,000 to $65,000, even $70,000 range. This is not going to be the everyman electric car. It's still going to be a premium car. I don't understand why Tesla didn't just fight in they could have just been a premium brand, like Mercedes is a premium brand, or BMW or Audi or Lexus or anything like that. Like, just stay there in that sort of $70,000 plus range, get good at making those cars and making them profitable, which they haven't. And then once you've established yourself as a premium brand, then you can start introducing less expensive models, like Mercedes-Benz has the A-Class and the CLA and those sorts of things. That's what I think they should do. But no one is going to be driving an all-wheel drive Tesla Model 3 with any kind of equipment in it for less than 60 grand. Kevin Yu says, what brand would you recommend for people who are getting their first car in the used market? I live in Vancouver. Your very first car, I would buy a Honda Civic or a Toyota Corolla. Okay, so the question I asked, you have $100,000. These are imaginary dollars. You might have $100,000 if you do, good for you. And you have to buy 3 cars. One has to be domestic, one has to be a utility vehicle, and one can be used. Only one can be used. And we're using the MSRP, not including tax. So here are some that are coming in. Tom Chan says a Mazda CX-5, that's a good choice, Ford Fiesta ST, and a Civic Sport Touring. Yeah, so you have your domestic in there, that's good, but you're kind of you've got 2 cars that are very similar, the Civic Sport Touring and the Fiesta ST, both hatchbacks. Anybody else come in? V109 says Honda CR-V, GTI, Volkswagen GTI, and a used F-150. Those are good choices as well. Let's see if anybody else has come in here. All right, so get in with your questions and also jump in on the challenge as well. Because this is coming because somebody said a lot of people are asking the same questions, and I agree. If you tune in every week, you get the same questions. Hey Zach, great video on the Kona. So yes, this morning, I believe it was this morning, the Hyundai Kona, which I want to call the Kia Kona. It just sounds better. And Hyundai and Kia, as you know, are sister brands or cousin brands or brother brands, whatever you want to call them. So I always want to call it the Kia. I don't know why. So the Hyundai Kona video went out this morning. Saw the specs on the new Kona Electric and it looks very promising. Am I wrong to say that this crossover will be a game changer? More range than the Bolt. Any idea on price? Well, the thing is, a game changer in the electric space is going to be when you can go in and you can go to Toyota or Honda and you can go in there and look at a RAV4 and then look at the full electric one that's roughly $4,000 or $5,000 more. That's when you've got a game changer. So we have to wait to see on the pricing and all of those sorts of things. And here's the thing. In countries where they get rid of government rebates, electric car sales just go right in the toilet. And we've seen that all around the world. New governments come into power and they don't want to pay these big rebates and they cut them off and electric car sales go down. So you and I as taxpayers across all of the Western world are paying for people to buy electric cars. So you're paying for somebody to get a new personal transportation vehicle. I don't agree with that. So there you go. Eggerson says, hey, Zach, I hope you recover soon. Once again, if you're tuning in, I have this thing with my eye today, so it's not that bad. Dwayne Rose says, driving on the Coquihalla, driving 130 kilometers an hour, nobody bats an eye. Well, I'm here to say, you know, I always drive the speed limit. But yeah, I would agree with you on that. Josh says, hey, Zach, going to try the all-new Infiniti QX50 tomorrow. I saw Brian Chow's review, which makes it look like a great car. Any personal thoughts on the vehicle? I haven't had a chance to get my hands on it. I've asked Infiniti. So they had an initial press launch in California. But actually, the vehicles on the ground, I have yet to see them. So he says, my colleague Brian Chow, who did a review on it, of Everyday Reviews, he says it's fantastic. This is the new variable compression ratio engine, the 2-liter that's in the QX50. The interior, from other people who have driven it, say it's first rate, and this could be the real game changer for Infiniti, which has been sort of lagging in sales. So that's a vehicle that I think needs some juice. Their best seller is the QX60, the 3-row, you know, Infiniti version of the Pathfinder. All right, so here are more vehicles coming in. So you have $100,000, 3 vehicles. One has to be domestic, one has to be a utility vehicle, and you can have one used. All right, so the Pittsburgh man says Infiniti Q60, used Mustang GT, and an F-150. That's pretty good. That's a good mix too. Somebody else, Mario Lopez says Audi Q3, so that's the smallest utility, Mustang GT, and a Scion TC. Those are good choices. Somebody else wrote Ford Fusion Sport or in a used Audi. So you need 3 vehicles. Somebody says, did you hear about the FCA announcement today? No, I didn't. What was it? And I'm on my phone getting notifications regularly, so please tell me what it is. Boston Moss says, can you list all the different BMWs you have owned, including year, model, trim, and how long you owned it, and your favorite BMW you have owned? Okay, so now I haven't owned a BMW in many years. The last one I had was in 2009, I believe it was. Yeah, 2009. So I have owned a BMW M6, the original M6. That was a very cool car, one of 35 sold in Canada in 1988. It was black on black, had a silver pinstripe, horrible metric wheels. So in that era, in the late 80s, they tried to come out with, instead of tires being in inches, metric. Trust me, it was a stupid idea, and you could only buy one tire for that wheel. It was a Michelin tire. Try and find one. Okay, so BMW M6, 1988. Then I had a BMW, what was the second one? A 5 Series station wagon, 1992. Then I had a 7 Series, a 740iL, 1993. And then I had a 2001 740IS. That was the James Bond car. That was an E38 with silver with the M parallel wheels. And then I had a 2005 BMW X5 with the 4.4 liter. There you go. Yeah, lots of BMWs, but it has been a while. And you know why it's been a while since I've gone to a BMW? 2 things. One was I was sick and tired of fixing them all the time, and they're expensive. Now, I can't judge new BMWs based on these old cars, but I got sick and tired of that. And I had less than desirable dealer experience. I won't say which dealer, but I was kind of put off. And then I switched to the Volkswagen Group cars. So I've had 4 Porsches, I've had an Audi, or I've had 5 Porsches, 4 Porsches, and an Audi, and I just think they're better for mechanical. Merc King Guy, hey Zach, I live on the island and my car got totaled. I was looking for a new car, a GLE 350D, a GL 63, an S550, an E400, a C63, and I need, I'm a sales associate and travel to Vancouver a lot. Okay, you've given me some good information. You travel a lot, you're in sales, and you've given me a whole hodgepodge here. So the GLE is a utility vehicle and it's a diesel, and you can't buy one new because Mercedes is not selling them new anymore. An S550, that's a baller car. An E400 is a great choice, and a C63. So I'm not sure how old you are. If you're doing a lot of mileage and you're driving up and down the island a lot, if you can look for a gently used GLE 350D, the diesel is going to return amazing fuel economy, and we are living right now in extra high fuel prices on the West Coast, so that won't kill you at the pump. The S550 is a very expensive car, and do you really need all of that? The E-Class will do. So if you're looking at the S and the E would be fine. And then if you really want to have some fun, a C63 or a C63S would be fantastic, but only rear-wheel drive. So consider that if you're driving a lot in the rain or maybe even the snow on places like the Malahat. So I would say utility GLE 350D, and it's between the E400 and the C63. It would be the C63 for me. Can you recommend 3 raw seat SUV? I don't know what a raw seat is. I'm guessing 3-row SUV. Same thing. What are you using it for? How much do you want to spend? And you know, what your lifestyle is. Off the top of my head, I like the Highlander for the practicality. I like the Volkswagen Atlas for size. Cimarran Manic says, hey Zach, can you help me decide between the 2018 Toyota Camry and the 2018 Mazda 6 GT? Thanks, I'm having a tough time deciding. So this is back to the point that somebody made. It's getting a lot of the same questions. Couple of things going for both of these products, okay? So I think you're talking about the XSE V6. So for the Camry, conventional engine and transmission setup. It's not like the Accord, and it's not being listed here as one of your choices. It has a CVT. So you have that with the 8-speed automatic transmission. The Mazda 6 is definitely going to be a great choice because it's turbocharged and you have a lot of grunt. It's interesting the way that engine works. It doesn't feel like a typical turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that has a lot of sort of peaky torque. It's got sort of this low end and mid-range whoosh. It actually drives a lot like a diesel, a turbo diesel. So there are no bad choices here. That's what I'm here to tell you. Both of them are fantastic. Right now, Apple CarPlay is not available in the Toyota, but it is going to be coming hopefully for 2019. And Mazda claims that Apple and Android is going to be added to their fleet of vehicles, and it's going to be reverse compatible. So if you buy the Mazda 6, you will be able to add that in after the fact. I don't think it's reverse compatible for the Camry. They're both great choices. Sammy Tesla, hey Zach, if a manual says to fill up with regular gas, is it better for a car to fill up with premium gas? Here's the very quick answer. No. If your car does not require or recommend premium fuel, save your money. It's a waste of money. Don't put premium in a car that doesn't need it. The only time you would put a higher grade, and you would maybe go to a mid-grade just to try it out, is if you've got an older car and it's knocking and it's not running properly. Save your money, keep it in the bank, put regular gas in. Oh, Alex Kim's asking for a 3-row utility. I think it is under $70,000. I think that if you want space, the Atlas is king. Okay, here we go. Alex, it would be easier if you just asked in one question. He's asking again between the Atlas, the CX-9, and the Volvo. The CX-9 is a wonderful product. It's a premium experience with a non-premium price tag. However, it's not boxy. It's sleek. It's got that nice silhouette. The third row is not as big, and the cargo space is quite small behind the third row of seats. The Volvo and the Atlas are both boxy vehicles. They offer a lot of space on the inside. I would personally go with the Atlas because it's got a bulletproof and proven VR6 engine, where the Volvo, I'm still on a holding pattern with that engine. It's turbocharged and supercharged, and in my experience has not delivered great kind of fuel economy. Chris Doucette is answering my question here. So the question I'm asking this time around, you have an imaginary $100,000 to spend, and we're using new MSRP prices without the tax. So just MSRP. You have to buy 3 cars. One is a utility, one is American, and it can be both a utility and American, and one you can have used. So Chris says, Challenger SRT 6-speed, that's a boss car, Honda CR-V Touring, and a used Honda S2000. I'm not sure you're going to get all 3 of those because I'm not sure the Challenger SRT, I'm guessing, is over 50 grand. Honda CR-V Touring is close to 40. And so that doesn't leave much left, does it? 10 grand maybe? Maybe. Paul Ray says, hey, the Land Rover dealer is giving me a deal on a brand new, it can't be brand new, if it's a 2016 Range Rover Sport Supercharged V8 with full maintenance and warranty for almost 50 off the 2016 price. It has 0 kilometers. How is that possible? I'd love to know. So what you need to do is, if you're in Canada, is go to Canadian Black Book and look at what a 2016 Range Rover Sport Supercharged is worth in the marketplace now, and calculate it backwards. The only thing I can think of is why would they have is this a salvage title? Was it damaged? Was it in a flood? Was it hail damage? Like, why is this vehicle still for sale, brand new after 2 years? That makes no sense to me. Hi Zach, got a brand new 17 Accord last year. Dealer says I must at least have all fluids changed at the dealer to void warranty, but the mechanic says he can do all the services. Thoughts? This is a major pet peeve of mine. You know, dealers, they do themselves no favors, okay? What people hate, and what people say over and over in studies, and just anecdotally, is they don't like dealing with dealers because they feel like they're getting ripped off and they're getting taken advantage of. And then you hear stories like this saying that you have to bring the vehicle in, it has to be done by the dealer, and you have to have all the fluids changed. It's a pile of crap. So when the auto industry looks itself in the mirror and says, why doesn't the public trust dealers? It's because of crap like this. It really kicks my ass. I got to tell you, look in your owner's manual. Your car is 1 year old. It's a 2017 Accord. Look in the owner's manual. It's the least read book on the planet. Nobody looks in the owner's manual. Crack that new boy open and go to the maintenance schedule and follow the maintenance schedule, okay? I guarantee on a 2017 Accord, the minimum oil change is 6,000 kilometers, or probably, if you don't drive that much, an annual service, okay? So follow what the manual says. All oils changed, so you're telling me the rad has to be flushed and the transmission every year? That's a pile of crap. They're trying to make money off of you. And here's the other thing. You do not need to take it to the dealer to have this done. If you have a reputable service center that can follow that schedule that the manufacturer has put out, and you can have a bill of sale that itemizes all of the things that the owner's manual requires. For example, a 1 year service on an Accord will be check this, check that, check this, check that. Very few things actually have to be done. What needs to be done is the oil needs to be changed, the oil filter needs to be changed, and probably rotate the tires, and that's it. So for them to say to you, you have to change all of the stuff is just a way to make money off of you. So if you're going to take it to somewhere other than the dealer, you need to do your due diligence and make sure that whoever does it follows what the book requires, and you have paperwork to back it up to make sure there's not a problem with your warranty. And it just picks my ass. I got to tell you, these idiots, they wonder why they don't have trust. It's because of stupid things like that. I feel better now. I feel better. Really picks my ass. Ah, that feels good. Oh, Elizabeth Long's here. Hello, and thank you, Zach. Elizabeth Long, as I always say every week, the one female voice in a house full of dudes here on the chat. All right. This is somebody piping in on my $100,000 question. an Audi A4 All-Road, a Ford Focus Active, okay, electric, and a used BMW i3. Interesting choices. Sharif says, a BMW 320d diesel, a used Volvo XC60, interesting, and a Hyundai i30. Interesting choices. Okay. Bowie says, the domestic vehicle would be a Ford Focus ST. Great vehicle. I prefer the Fiesta ST. I think it's just more fun to drive, but I understand it's really small. The SUV would be a Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro, and the used would be a Lexus GS 350 F Sport. All solid choices. All right, so I'll go through mine again, because if you're just tuning in now. So the $100,000 question, 3 vehicles, 1 domestic, 1 utility, and 1 can be used. I chose Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited for $50,000, Volkswagen GTI Autobahn for $36,000, which leaves me $14,000 left over to buy a used MX-5 Miata. All right. Let's go back to our question and answer here. We have another one. Let's get into this one. Genesis G70. That's the hot new sport compact sedan from Genesis. BMW 3 Series. Oh, he's asking questions. I thought he was giving me his list. All right. Here's somebody asking, would you rather have sex with a male or female? Really? Is this the best you can come up with? Is this the best you can come up with? All right. Garakal? Did I get even close? When is the new Honda HR-V coming? I don't think there's going to be a new HR-V coming soon. It just came out like 2-3 years ago. Maybe a facelift on it? I don't know. I really don't know. William says, any chance to see Max or Mike do a live Q&A? It would be a nice change. You know what? I got to figure that out. What I was thinking of doing is trying to get Mike Gurr on Skype and doing the live thing. So he would be in Toronto and I would be here and we could do it together. A good point. The problem I have is I'm so busy I can never have time to actually sit down and figure that stuff out. If you know, send me an email on how to do it. Alex says, with Canada and US putting in tariffs in place, will new cars go up in price, and when do you think they will go up? This is an excellent, excellent and timely question. For those that maybe don't follow the news, good old Donald Trump imposed steel and aluminum tariffs on Canada, 25% for one and 15%, I believe, was for the other. 50% of all of the steel and aluminum that the United States gets comes from Canada. And here's a news flash for those living in the United States that don't know, your number one trading partner is Canada. Your number one, you export more to Canada than the first other 3 economies combined. Billions of dollars go back and forth across the Canada-US border every single day. So Canada is your biggest and most loyal business partner. So putting these tariffs on is first an affront to the long relationship we've had, and also is going to affect things. So your question, is it going to put prices up on new cars? Yes. If cars are, now here's the question. Will the cars be counted if a new car comes in from Canada into the US, like some of the best sellers like the CR-V and the RAV4 are made in Canada and then brought down to the United States. So will there be a duty? I don't know. I don't think so. So yes, prices will have to go up. If you're imposing a 25% levy or duty on steel, eventually that has to go through the supply chain, which is one of the major arguments is that, it's going to hurt consumers. Joel says, thoughts on the success of the Tiguan so far? I don't think that the Tiguan is a nice product, and it's interesting because it's larger than the majority of compact utility vehicles. I know in the United States they had to actually adjust the price on the Tiguan. I'm not quite sure on these things always have an initial start where people who want them rush out and get them. That's the honeymoon stage of any new vehicle. And then often what can happen is the prices can start, not the prices, the sales can start to slide off a little bit. So, I see them out there, anecdotally. I think that the Tiguan, the current new model, is selling better than the old small model. But now Volkswagen has an even bigger option in the Atlas, and that is a runaway hit. So I'm not sure. I don't have the hard numbers here to back it up. But yeah, I think that the Tiguan has been successful, but maybe not as successful as they had hoped. Now, the other thing is Volkswagen has also included all-wheel drive into their station wagon lineup. So there are still some people that are, interested in station wagons, and the sales of those vehicles has actually gone up. So you get the Golf Sport Wagon, and you get the what's the more rugged one? The All-Track, I believe it is. Yeah. Ryan Moon says, do you prefer sedans or SUVs? Why? What's better for teenagers? Well, if you're putting a new driver in a vehicle, I think a car is safer for one element, and that is, potential rollover, especially if they're driving on the highway a lot. Yes, you're going to have that lower center of gravity and better handling. Less size, easier for braking, those sorts of things. The flip side of that is if you get in an accident, size always wins. So the bigger you are, the more chance you are going to survive an accident. So, a crossover vehicle that has good handling might be a nice compromise, but probably, I still think for a teenager, a small car like a Corolla or a Civic, or like a Toyota IM, a hatchback like a Mazda 3 is a great way to start. So probably sedan. Ryan Moon asks, a Porsche Macan or Audi SQ5. Interesting that you should ask that, because I was just driving the Macan today, and there is still something about having that Porsche badge on the steering wheel and on the hood. So yes, an SQ5 logically might be a better choice because you've got the twin turbocharged 6-cylinder, and it's going to be quicker, and it's new. It's just been out for about a year or so. And then you have the Porsche Macan that's got the turbo 4-cylinder, the same engine, by the way, that's in the regular Q5, but the power of that emblem is something that you have to contend with. Does that matter to you? If it doesn't matter to you, rush out and get the SQ5. If it does matter to you, and for a lot of people it does, that is something that you have to contend with. So, and you know what? The Porsche Macan is no slouch with that turbo 4-cylinder. It's no slouch in the Audi. C. Sobek says, hey Zach, what car would you recommend replace my 07 Civic Si? Budget $35 before tax. Needs to be manual. Ideally all-wheel drive, but not necessary. Already have S2000 for summer car. Boss, nice for you. Budget is $35,000 before tax. Needs to be a manual. Ideally all-wheel drive. Have you considered a lightly used Golf R? That would be a very nice complement, or a WRX. Not sure if you need a hatchback. So those would be my two choices. And right around $35,000 is where you could buy one that's very gently used. Okay, so right around $35,000. Now the other side of it is, if you're used to driving a Civic Si, like a Subaru Crosstrek or an Impreza manual and all-wheel drive, might seem like a little bit of a letdown because it's not as potent as you're expecting it to be. So those would be two vehicles I would look at for sure. You might be able to do the WRX new, but not much in it. So I'd look for both of those vehicles used. Boyang Lai says, hi from Montreal, Honda Civic Si or Volkswagen GTI manual basic model. Thank you very much. Comes back to my question or my comment earlier, getting a lot of the same questions. You cannot go wrong with either car. They are both great products, and they're both manual and base model. Really, you need to go and drive them. One is a hatch, one isn't. Okay, one is a sedan, one is a hatchback. They're both excellent products. You really can't go wrong with either. Okay, I really do believe that. Paul says, "Hey Zach, I'm Ruel, I think, from Panama. Love your videos. White 2016 Range Rover Sport Supercharged." All right, so this is the person that's talking about the 2016 with 0 kilometers on it. Okay, so now you're talking about a totally different country, Panama, Central America. I don't know anything about that market. So yes, if you can get a vehicle at 50% off the original price, you need to find out if that is a good deal. Do Range Rover Sport Supercharged depreciate by 50% after just a couple of years? If that's the case, then you're getting a fair price, maybe a bit of a deal because it's got no mileage on it. So yes, and the Audi Q5 S-Line TDI is a fantastic product. One is 3 rows, the other one is not. So yeah, you need to do some homework in your own market. Ryan says, Genesis G70, BMW 3 Series, Infiniti Q50, or Lexus IS. 3 Series is old, Infiniti is a bit too soft for me, Lexus is too small, Genesis for the win. Ryan, again, what are your thoughts on the A-Class? Haven't driven it yet. I saw a video of the redesigned Azera. Have you heard of it? It will be returning to North America. I would bet no, because sedans are just totally out of step right now. Everybody's rushing towards utility vehicles. Boilermaker says, "Hey Zach, how do you see the future of the Cayman 981S prices given almost all Porsches are going to turbo?" I'm not sure what your question is about prices. The prices of Porsches is one of those things. It's kind of like an annuity. Not an annuity, because annuity pays out, but you know what I mean. It's a real blue chip stock. You buy it and you hold it and you can trade it or sell it and you're going to get a lot of that money back. It's a really good, I don't see, oh, I see what you're asking. Sorry, I misread the question. So you're talking about the flat 6 S prices given that all the Porsches are going to turbo. Okay, I sorry about that. I truly believe, and I have said this, and I am kind of in the market peripherally, not seriously, but just kind of looking around. I think that the last of the flat 6 Boxster and Caymans will be collectible in the long run. Now, not collectible like they're going to shoot up in price, but I think they're going to hold their own, because with the turbocharged 4-cylinder, the jury is still out. The cars have only been out for just over a year or so. What's the long-term reliability? Porsche is known for having superb reliability, but still, those cars, if you can get one of the last ones that has the latest body, then I think that you're going to be holding your own well. It's not going to depreciate that quickly, but I don't think they're ever going to go up in value because they just made and sold far too many of them. So I apologize for misreading your question. Oh, somebody else is jumping in on the 3 cars for $100,000. Used a Honda S2000, an F-150, and a BMW X5. I don't know if you're going to get an X5, an F-150, and an S2000 for that kind of money. All right. VJ says, Zach, any idea when the Arteon will go on sale here in Canada? I don't know, but I do know I'm going to get a chance to drive it this summer in Europe. So that's all I can tell you. I think it'll probably be, if it's going to be coming, it'll be in the fall, probably as a 19 model. That would be my guess. It's probably going to be a fall launch. I don't know. That's just my guess. Gordon says, Japanese are still #1 in reliability. The Koreans will never catch up because Japan is David and Koreans are Goliath. I would totally disagree with that. Japanese are not always #1 in terms of reliability. They have a very long track record of producing excellent quality cars over a long period of time. But not all brands are #1. And you can look at studies after studies. Some Japanese brands like Toyota has a strong reputation for producing high quality cars year after year. Yes, they're right near the top along with Lexus. But also in terms of reliability are brands like Porsche. And here's one I'm going to throw at you that'll come way out of left field. Buick. And then the Korean brands are coming up in terms of reliability. So I've always said that I think that the Koreans have this sort of, small man syndrome. They feel like they've always got to beat the Japanese, and they were going to do anything it takes to try and catch up to them. But the Japanese are just as committed. So Alain Hubert says FCA is having a meeting in Italy, I believe, about the future of the Chrysler brand. I think here's the thing. FCA, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, is going to be a Jeep and a Ram brand. That's it. You're going to have Jeeps and you're going to have Ram, and everything else other than maybe full-size car like, sorry, I take that back. Jeep, Ram, and Dodge. And they have the Dodge, like the Charger, which is still very popular in the United States and is still used by a lot of police services. So I think that is going to be the mix. I totally agree. I think the Chrysler brand doesn't have any cachet, and they would be smart to just pare it down to those three things and get on with it. Michael Park, any news on the A-Series from Mercedes-Benz? Like when and where? I don't know what you're asking about. Nevin says, Zach, we occasionally haul 6 people looking for a used SUV that is reliable and has decent driving dynamics. We're looking at the last generation Highlander. How is it to drive? Any others? Yes, I would suggest that the Highlander is going to do what you need. Is it going to be dynamic to drive? Absolutely not. It is not a dynamic vehicle to drive in any way. It is a utility vehicle. It's going to give you good utility. So a 3-row utility that has good driving dynamics. The current model, Mazda CX-9, does have pretty good driving dynamics, but that's brand new. I would suggest a Pilot would be probably a little bit more fun to drive than a Highlander, but all of them are really kind of pokey and not much fun to drive. Other people can chime in here, but I don't really think there is one. Unless you're going to a premium vehicle, I don't think you're basically giving up driving dynamics by driving a 3-row utility, really. What is your opinion about the Range Rover Discovery Sport, or the Land Rover Discovery Sport? Apparently, Range Rover does not have good reliability ratings. Is that right? Well, if you look at historically, yes, Land Rover Jaguar has suffered from below average or below industry average repairs and dependability, but they have been able to move it up over the last few years. Here's what I will tell you. Especially in the Land Rover and Range Rover, like the full-size vehicles, the loyalty of the people that buy them is through the roof. So even though somebody goes out and buys a Range Rover, and it might be in the shop occasionally for service items, the resale value on these I know in the Canadian market is very strong, and they hold incredible resale value. A lot of you are going to disagree with that, but just go to Canadian Black Book and look it up for yourself. When you look at 4 years of depreciation, some of those vehicles actually win their category, which is quite amazing, and people love them. And there's a lot of people that have had Range Rovers just get another one. So for the Discovery, I would say yes, that's the case. For the Discovery Sport, which is their compact sort of crossover version, might not be the case, but they have improved their reliability. Is it at the same level as others? No, but they still have a way to go. Somebody else is chiming in saying the 3 vehicles that they would choose for $100,000, Volkswagen GTI, Mini Countryman, all 4, so that's your utility vehicle, and a Jeep Wrangler. Interesting choices. There you go. Not bad at all. What do you think of the new Passat? Have you done a review yet? No, I haven't. Hey, Zach, what got you into automotive journalism? What would you say has changed from the time you started until now? Wow, what's changed? Well, I got into this racket as a kind of a side deal. My dad is now a long retired newspaper editor, okay? He was the editor of a newspaper called the Medical Post, which was for doctors. And he had buddies, this was in Toronto where I grew up, who were auto reviewers for newspaper outlets like the Toronto Star, Toronto Sun, things like that. And they used to come around the house with these new cars, right? Like I get to drive now. And I thought, how cool is that? And ever since I was little, I was obsessed with cars. You know, I still have, you know, my collectibles from when I was a little kid. That's one, you know, these old cars. I still have a whole box of them. So I was obsessed with cars ever since I was little. And when I saw that this was an option, I was like, that is cool. And I said to these guys, you know, how do you do that? And they said, well, you need an outlet before car companies will give you cars. So when I moved to Vancouver years later, I always had that in the back of my head. And I went into, believe it or not, reviewing cars on radio. It's not easy to do. I went into the radio station that I was working at and said, can I have 5 minutes a week to do a car review? And they said yes. And then I went to cable. Believe it or not, you know, like Wayne's World, the old movies about Wayne's World is like community access TV, like Shaw or Rogers. I went to the local cable outlet here and I said, can I do a half-hour car show TV once a month? Same thing again. They said sure. So that's how I got started. And I first started reviewing cars back in 1992. So that's a long time ago. And I've driven lots of cars through all of those years. So what's changed? You used to have a traditional outlet. So it was either newspapers, magazines, radio, or TV, traditional media. That has all changed, as you know. Newspapers are on their knees, and are they going to survive? Probably not in the long run. They're all trying to switch to digital formats, but for some it's working and some it isn't. TV has still got a place, especially with older demographics. Radio is fun. I've done my own radio talk show here on the West Coast for the better part of 10 years. That's fun. Radio isn't going anywhere because people still use radio in the car. But everything is shifting online, and that's really how it's changed. And now the barriers for entry are much lower. Like, you got to remember, years ago, if you wanted to do a TV show, you had big cameras, like huge cameras, massive editing suites that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a TV station to broadcast that out to the people. Now, you can even use your phone, right? You get a laptop or a computer, and now you send it up to the internet called YouTube for free, and you're in business. So that's how it's changed. That feels good to get that off my shoulders. Yeah, anyway, a lot of people ask me how I got started. Rock Class 101 says, hi, Zach, have you driven the 9872 Cayman? Curious your thoughts versus the 98. Well, here's the thing. On every metric, the new Cayman and Boxster are better. They handle better, they have more power, they're more efficient, they have all of that. But they don't have the sound. And they don't have, or I don't know yet, what the long-term reliability is going to be of that new turbocharged setup. So what I can tell you, the biggest change between the old car and the new car is the handling is second to none. All right, now before we go any farther, I just want to let you know that my buddy Russ Bond, you probably, speaking of TV and auto journalists, there's Russ. He's one of the hosts on Motoring on TSN. He's a competitor to my TV show on Driving TV, but he's a great guy. And he has had Cart Start running right across the country for several years now. And this is for kids, basically, to get their very first shot at driving anything, using the gas and the brake and the steering wheel. And they get to go for a half day, then they get lunch, and then the parents get to try the new Toyota vehicles. This is sponsored, of course, by Toyota. Costs a lot of money to put this on. And then the parents get to try the new safety features in the Toyota products. So it's only $59. So it's called Cart Start. Teach your kids to become safe drivers. Sign up at cartstart.ca. So here are the locations across the country, starting at the end of June. Chilliwack, Red Deer, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, Hamilton, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Trois Rivières, and Halifax. So go to cartstart.ca, and when you get to cartstart.ca, when you're about to sign out, type in Zach, my name, Z-A-C-K, and you get 20 bucks off, okay? And it's $59. It's a great deal. So if you know anybody who's young who wants to go go-karting for a half day, get lunch, and the parents get to try the Toyota cars, why not? It's it's a great gift. Here's Father's Day's coming up. I think it's next weekend or the weekend after. If you know somebody who wants to do a father-daughter, father-son, grandfather, grandson thing, buy it for them and they will have a good time. Okay? All right. Back to the questions. Hey, Zach, my uncle's sister had to return her new Tesla Model 3 because of a bad paint job. She got a small Jaguar as a rental, and she says it handles terrible. What do you think about the new Jaguar? I think that's a pile of crap. If you're talking about the XE, the new Jaguar XE, I'm not sure if you're talking about the Jaguar, the E-Pace, but I would totally disagree with you. The new Jaguar XE, the smallest sedan that competes with the 3 Series, is one of the best handling cars in its class. Ushan says, hey Zach, pardon my lack of knowledge, but what really is handling? I hear people say BMWs are the benchmark when it comes to handling, but I'm just trying to understand, is it really worth the extra cost? That's a very simple but good question. Because as auto reviewers and as people who are enthusiasts, we just think that everybody wants a great handling car. But the interesting thing is, if you look at the statistics of sales, the majority of people buy cars that are just cars. They just get them from A to B. So it's not about handling. Often it's about comfort, safety, fuel economy. Handling, unless it's certain classes of cars, is actually quite far down on the list. When you get into premium vehicles like a BMW 3 Series or the new G70 from Genesis and so on, then people put a much higher preference on handling. And what is handling? Handling, the best way to describe it is the confidence that you feel when you're driving along the road and you want to jam on the brakes and go into a corner, and the car will do it effortlessly without really making much fuss, okay? Driving down the highway at high rate of speed and having to do a quick lane change or maneuver, and you have that sure-footedness, that's handling. The feeling you get from the suspension and the steering wheel, through the steering wheel and through the seat of your pants, when you turn a corner, it feels like the car's stuck to the road. That is all handling. So here's a little tip. Go to a BMW dealer and say you want to go for a test drive in a 3 Series BMW, and you can find out for yourself. Excuse me. But a good question, because a lot of people get hung up on this. Oh, it's got to handle great. The average person just buys a car based on what they need. All right. What is a car from the 60s that you would buy today? That is a great question. I would say it's probably going to be a Mustang. If I could get an original Mustang GT350, that would be it. Or I love the original Camaros, cool cars. And, okay, now that I'm thinking about it, I love early 60s Cadillac Eldorado convertibles. Love those. Would you get the Volvo XC90 or possibly wait for the new Aviator from Lincoln? Well, we'll have to wait to see what the new Aviator is all about, okay? So I can't answer that question because it's just theoretical. Hey, Zach, the Range Rover Sporter's dealer overstock originally was ordered by a customer who didn't pay for it, not in Canada, in Panama. No damage, still in inventory. I say if you're getting it, so this is back to the question earlier. Someone's being offered a car in Panama at 50% off, brand new, never been driven, but it's 2 years old. Sounds like a hell of a deal. Why not? Hi, Zach. 2015 Yukon Denali with 70,000 kilometers in with magnetic suspension for 52,000. I don't understand your question. Lamar Webb says, as a new driver, do you think the Honda sensing package would be useful on the Civic hatchback I'm thinking of getting? Or should I save the money? I answered this question last week, Lamar. I'm not sure if it was you. The one thing that I think with this new technology that's coming into cars is the forward collision warning with autonomous braking. The lane departure warning, the blind spot warning, all of those things can be corrected by just good habits. You know, shoulder checks, setting your mirrors properly, all of that, and freaking paying attention, okay? Now, there are times when you're looking down, you're looking for your sunglasses or your coffee cup, or God forbid, playing with your phone, and everybody stops in front of you, and you look up and all you see are red lights, and you jam on the brakes and hope you don't hit somebody, all right? Now, the car is going to be paying attention for you. So if you're looking down or looking at a pretty girl out the window and everybody jams on the brakes and you don't pay attention, the car will warn you and then jam on the brakes if you do nothing. That is the safety feature I think is the most useful. The other ones, to be honest with you, I switch them off, okay? So, yes, if you can afford it, it's not a bad thing to get. Jiz Jing says, well, we had a comment earlier that we have a female guest on the chat here. Jiz Jing says, she's not the only female. I am one as well. Awesome. Good for you. Bazib says, hey, Zach, have a new 2018 A5 Sportback. Love the car, but the OEM tires are wearing out at 28,000 kilometers. Any comments on OEM tires? Why do they always wear out so quick? It's got nothing to do with the tires. It's got everything to do with the geometry of the suspension and the fact that these are probably, if you got the S line, straight summer high performance tires. And straight summer high performance tires at almost 30,000 kilometers isn't that bad, to be honest with you. So when you're replacing them, unless it's leased, consider going and looking up tires that wear longer. But I don't think that's out of line. I really don't. Hey, Zach, would you let me know your thoughts on the new Acura Rdx? Okay, let's just stop right there. Compare it to the X3 and the Q5 because I haven't driven the Rdx, but I will be on Tuesday. I leave here tomorrow. I fly to Tofino on the outer coast of Vancouver Island, God's country. If you've never been, do yourself a favor once in your life. You have to go to Tofino, Long Beach area of Vancouver Island, and drive. I know you, or you don't have to drive, you just have to go. But I'll be there driving the new Rdx. So next time I do the live chat, you can ask the question. And a video of the new Rdx will be coming out this week. Tim says, in the market for a compact premium SUV, considering the Volvo XC60, 2019 Rdx, the GLC 300, which one would you recommend? Would you go for the GLC or wait for an update? GLC's been out for a couple of weeks. A couple of years, I should say. Haven't driven the Rdx, same thing. I'll drive it later this week. I'll let you know then. Brian Mark says, Zach, I'm shopping for a new subcompact. I care about reliability and price. I know, is it wise to go Toyota, but are the Kias and Hyundais just as good? I'm a big fan of the Kia Rio. It just offers so much more. I have put my mother-in-law into one. I've put other people into them. Great cars. Now, if you can afford the Honda Fit, it is, without question, the best for resale value. It holds its resale value incredibly well, and you're going to get a lot of that money back. If you can't afford that, absolutely no problem with the Kia Rio. It's one of my favorites in that class. CMCF or CMCF says, is start-stop technology hard on the battery? The vehicles are engineered for that, so I don't think so. Magabo says, hey, Zach, I'm glad to watch you live. I wanted to ask you a question. Since Nissan has made the Altima all-wheel drive now, is there any chance the Maxima will go all-wheel drive too? Yes, I believe that's probably a very good bet and a very good question. And now, somebody asked this before, and I think it's a very good question. Once one of the dominoes starts to fall, the other ones fall too. So if Nissan is going all-wheel drive with the Altima, and if it gets, wait for it, traction, in the marketplace, it won't be long now till Accord and Camry come out with that as an option as well. So if they get traction, I could see that happening. I have been predicting now for the last few years, everything's going to be sold with all-wheel drive, lift it up a little bit, put cladding on it, call it a kind of a crossover of some kind, just be done with it, even sedans. Hey, Zach, is the Outlander PHEV worth the extra money, given that in the rebate in BC is only $2,500? I'm split between the Outlander PHEV, Tiguan, and Outback. Here's the interesting thing. Mitsubishi, with this new plug-in hybrid electric Outlander, has been selling incredibly well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is a honeymoon period. Now, what's it going to be like 2 years from now once everybody who has bought one has got one? Is the market going to go like that for these vehicles? But as of right now, they've been for sale since basically the beginning of the year. They're selling very well. And Mitsubishi sales are going up. And they have their new Eclipse Cross out as well. Is it worth the extra money? I don't, it's a tough one. How much do you drive? If you drive a lot and you're going to utilize that electric range every single day, or the opposite is true, if you don't drive much and you're never going to have the gas engine come on, then you might be able to get some of that money back. But the problem with the PHEV, it ain't cheap. So once you start looking at it and you actually calculate how much money you're going to save on fuel, are you actually going to save some money at the end of the day? So there you go. You have to really ask yourself, what do I drive a year, and do the calculations based on that. Thomas says, Audi digital cockpit, yay or nay? If it comes with the car, yay. If I have to pay for it, nay. All right. I am up against the clock. It is exactly 1 hour. I've been chattering away here. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. I just want to let you know, if you want to go to cartstart.ca, let somebody know, sign up, give it as a gift. It's $59. Help my buddy Russ, there's Russ there, fill out these dates across the country, starting at the end of June, right through the summer till the East Coast. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Zach Spencer. We'll see you next time.